Hello, friends! If you have seen this image, then you understand the rage that I feel within my heart, and we are the same, so thank you for being here. What does it have to do with the queer content that we watch today? Well, that's what I'm hoping to break down in this video. My name is Jeremy. I watch BLs, and I talk about a bunch of other queer things as well. This is my first time doing long form content. Woo! Thank you for being here. So hopefully this is a thing that lasts longer than a week. And for some reason, I've decided that my first video is going to talk about the very controversial topic of queerbaiting, fan service, etc. when it comes to the BL world. Why is this such a hot button topic? That's kind of what I want to get into, because I think there is a lot more nuance in the conversation. And I also think that people are missing a lot of things when it comes to this conversation that I kind of want to bring up. So firstly, I think we have to talk about what queerbaiting is at its core, and not so much what people say it is or how people use this term at this point. Let's talk about what it actually is. Queerbaiting is not really hard to understand. It's in the name. It is baiting queer people with the promise that queerness will be represented in some way if you were to buy a thing, watch a thing, support someone or something, and then it doesn't really show up ever. We've seen this done with TV shows, with different storylines. We've seen it done with music, with movies. One of the biggest stories, if you recognize that image when it comes to queerbaiting, is Teen Wolf, a show that I unfortunately loved very much. In the sort of Teen Wolf fandom, there were a lot of people who really liked the idea of the character Styles and the character Derek being romantically involved with each other, despite that not being a thing in the show. There's a bunch of fan fiction about it. You can go read it. And it came to a point where the writers, producers, and actors clearly knew that this was a thing. There was a time during an award season where the people from the show decided to shoot a little promo of the two actors sitting on a boat, cuddling, and very much implying that if they were to get votes from the fans to win an award, that we might see queerness from these two on the show. Even going further to the point that in the show, the character Styles questions his sexuality for about 2.5 seconds in an episode, and that story is dropped completely. None of these things that they like subtly promised or subtly implied was going to happen ever actually happened. And it really upset a lot of fans, because if you weren't planning on doing it, why are you talking to us at all? Now, to be extra clear, queerbaiting as a concept is a marketing tool. It's trying to get you to buy something, to consume something, to use your money, to use your views. It's not about someone's personal identity. And that's where I think the concept gets a little funky and misused. There was a conversation a few years ago about the actor Kit Connor, who is one of the stars of Heartstopper, where people accused him of queerbaiting because he was playing a bisexual character in Heartstopper, where at the same time he was apparently dating a woman. This is what bisexuality means, by the way. I just want to point that out. But, people were weirdly upset. The point of this is less about people being gross and more about people misusing a term. He wasn't queerbaiting anything. He had an identity that was not necessarily disclosed to the public and didn't need to be. And he was also promoting and talking about a role that he had in a show that he felt really proud of. Those were two separate things. He wasn't baiting anyone. And in the storm of this controversy, he felt compelled to come out publicly just so the conversation would stop, which is really crappy. It also sucks that this conversation gets muddy because of the misuse of the term, because queerbaiting can be a real problem. There are plenty of instances of people asking us LGBTQ people for our support for a thing, even though they don't support us. There's also a difference between a lack of support and a lack of disclosure when it comes to private identities, and we need to make sure that we discern those two things. So, queerbaiting as a concept, got it, cool, awesome, understand. Well, what does this have to do with BLs? Well, sort of nothing. Kind of. We'll get there. So if you watch BLs/boys love content, you'll know that in a lot of instances, especially in Thailand, they run sort of on the old Hollywood studio model. At this point in Hollywood, actors are essentially independent contractors. They might work with people that they like and continue to work with them, but they are their own body. They move around to different studios, working with different people, different actors, on different sets, etc. That wasn't always the case. Actors used to sign with studios and essentially train under them in order to be in the movies that they produced. And so you would constantly see the same actors produced by the same studio. Without getting into too much detail, because I don't know every single detail about Thailand and their entertainment industry, it seems kind of similar, especially when it comes to studios who make BLs. They sign up with a production company, they get a ship partner, they train with that person and under this studio, and then they keep getting into different shows under that production company. company. Now, obviously, if you are promoting a romantic show or a show that is going to at some point get romantic regardless of the genre that we're sitting in, you want to make sure that the people that you are promoting or putting out there as the lead actors have chemistry, and also that that chemistry is reactive when it comes to audiences and the people who you want to consume this content. So of course you're going to have things like fan meets, like doing different brand deals with the couple. You're going to have things like doing different social media posts or TikTok challenges and things like that for people to understand who these people are as actors, how they want to present themselves to the public, and whether people are reacting to this couple in a positive way. Now, I really want to talk about what this absolutely isn't and also what it could be. It absolutely is not queerbaiting. Again, if we go back to the original idea of what queerbaiting is, it is marketing you to watch something, to consume something that isn't actually queer. That is not true. BL, boys love, at the end of the day, is a queer genre. These two boys are on TikTok pretending to kind of kiss. Well, guess what, diva? When they get on the actual show, they're gonna kiss. They're being intimate and fun and playful and silly to get you to watch the show where they're gonna do all of those things anyway. And while, yes, we can have a conversation about who BLs have been for and who they are for now, what we cannot ignore is that there has been an influx of more queer people behind and in front of the camera, more queer stories, more stories where they talk about LGBT issues, about things like gay marriage, especially in Thailand, which just got passed. Shout out to that. There are more instances of queerness being a part of the story outside of just the guys that are in it loving each other. So if people feel baited, I'm not really sure why. It's like someone said, hey, there's candy in this van. And then you went to the van and it was a van called Candy Van. And the van had a bunch of candy. And also they said, you know, please ask your parents permission to eat the candy because we're not serial killers. That was a weird metaphor, but you get what I'm saying. They're not baiting you, and they're giving you the content that they said they were going to give you. They said, hey, it's about to be real gay up in here, and then there was real gay up in here. Like, what are you talking about? Now, if we want to have a conversation of, is it fan service? That's complicated. And my answer, honestly, at the end of the day would be yes and. Because obviously there is fan service. There are things called fan meets. And in those, they make jokes about how much they love each other. And they like lift each other in each other's arms. And they run around and do crazy stuff. And, you know, I'm not going to say that every TikTok challenge that these people do is a organic thing that they wanted to do because they just felt it in their heart. No, they want the views. They want the likes. They want people to invest in their careers, in this couple, in this thing that they want to do, in this project that they're about to give you. But when I see sometimes people yelling about fan service, what it feels like is they're really yelling about queerbaiting, and what they're really yelling about is the idea of being duped when you're trying to support queer content. And part of this fight and this back and forth is because Thai actors typically don't disclose their relationship status or their sexuality. So a lot of people ask the question, how can I support this queer content if I don't know the person behind it is actually queer? Also, to be clear, Thai actors are not K-pop artists. There's been an entire conversation about how K-pop is this intense machine with very rigid contracts, and this idea that you cannot disclose your relationship status, your sexuality, or anything that would put you in a position to not be desired by your audience. Number one, I feel like there's probably more nuance in there than you think there are. Number two, I think those contracts have obviously been a little lessened over time as you've seen more and more K-pop artists come out publicly. And number three, those are two different countries and two different industries with two different ways of thinking. There's a lot of evidence to show that in Thailand, things like PDA or romantic relationships is a very private thing, regardless of what industry you're in. Two Thai actors, Dao and Off-Road, came to America to do a fan meet, and one of the things that Dao said that was really surprising about his experiences walking around in New York and in America is how much PDA just happens. People are holding hands, they're kissing in public. It's just not a thing that happens over there. So if that's not a private citizen thing, it's probably not going to be a public citizen thing either. So I do also hear the conversation around the the social media aspect of these people hanging out with each other with their ship partner, going on trips or making cute videos. And what does that mean? Are they together? Are they not together? If I think they're together, does that make me delusional? Because obviously they're working on a project. They can't actually be romantically involved. And this is, again, another situation where I can say that multiple things can be true at once. Fact number one, yes, these people are trying to, in most cases, promote a project, or at the very least promote their idea of being a couple in these shows. They want people to have engagement, and it's important to support their work, their idea of being a couple, because they'll get more work and hopefully get seen and be able to do more projects that they want to do. Number two, we as Americans, as Westerners, have seen plenty of times in which people who have worked on a project together have been in relationships. Brangelina, if anyone is my age. More recently, Zendaya and Tom Holland, two people who clearly started off as friends and then became romantically involved. So am I going to sit here and say this ship couple is absolutely in a relationship and this ship couple absolutely isn't? No, at least not on here. Why? Because it doesn't matter. The point is that it's possible. And number three, and I would say most importantly, people can have intimate relationships with their friends and coworkers in ways that we might not understand because we don't know those people. A Thai actor, Pooin, was in a show where he was talking about his relationship with his couple partner, Pond, and he talked about the fact that their relationship is really weird and amorphous. He specifically said that they're not friends, but he's not his boyfriend, but he also sees this person more than his friends, his family, his loved ones. So they have a weird intimacy that's kind of hard to describe. And it makes sense that that's a thing that we see if you're engaging with these people's social media. Yes, obviously sometimes they're doing challenges or they're doing promotion to get you to like them, but also sometimes they're just going on trips to Italy with their friends or hang out at a club with their ship partner because they have a great relationship. Is it more romantic than platonic? Is it more sexual than non-sexual? We don't know because, again, they're not trying to promote their actual relationships. They're trying to promote a show. So in my opinion, is some of it fan service? Yeah, probably. They want you to watch their stuff. But making it all fan service reduces their personal beings and identities to just being a marketing tool always, constantly, which is probably not true. A really great Western example, I think, is when Zendaya won the Emmy. And they had asked her after winning the Emmy what she did when she won, because she won at home. There was the pandemic, so there was a lot of excitement, but she wasn't in person. And she talked about how she, cried with her family and hugged everyone. And then she specifically said, and then I called my boyfriend. Her boyfriend is Tom Holland, another prominent, famous, very, very famous actor, right? But she didn't say I called Tom Holland because, one, why would she do that? And two, she said it in a way that felt personal. She's calling her boyfriend because she probably says my boyfriend when she's talking to normal people. She doesn't say Tom or Tom Holland unless she's promoting something. It felt like a very clear divide between the personal Zendaya Coleman, the person, and Zendaya, the actress. So I think if you were to sort of come into looking at these people's social media or the things that they promote and push with more of an open mind, you can probably see the difference between I'm promoting a show, I'm promoting a brand deal, I'm wearing this person's watch or this company's whatever to make sure that I'm seen and I'm heard, and I'm just going on a trip with my friends because I love this person and they're close to me and we have an intimate relationship. And you can also probably see when that intimate relationship pours over into the romantic, because again, while it's rare to have people disclose their identities and their sexualities, it's not zero. So let's all take a breath. Okay. Ooh, and remember just a few things as we come to the end of this and land the plane. Individual people cannot queerbait, but it makes sense as to why people are so afraid of queerbaiting, because we want to make sure that we're represented wholly and we're represented behind and in front of the camera. And if that feels a little shaky or it feels like the representation isn't living up to our expectations, there's a fear and a real upsetness that makes sense and is valid. That being said, if you are a BL fan, you can see that it's very obvious there's a growing desire, need, and push to tell board more queer stories and have more LGBTQ people in front of and behind the camera. And if that's not enough for you, that is absolutely okay. But what you don't need is these people to disclose their personal identities and personal lives to you to get the queer content that you're asking for, because it does exist. And while we don't know every person's sexual orientation or romantic partner, we have heard stories of queer people who are doing this work because they love it. We've heard stories of straight people who are doing this work because they feel like it's important. And we have stories of queer directors, writers who just want to be in the room and make good content. And as a queer person myself, that's what I want to see, baby. So those are my thoughts. If you have opinions, please leave them, but be nice or I'll cry. Otherwise, I'll be back here at some point. Subscribe? Is that a thing I should say? I don't know.